Cosign complaining. Yeah, we do analytical complaining on this stream here. All right, so real quick, I'm going to knock out the money overflow thing. Let's see what happens if you have enough money to overflow the value. So let me bust out a couple of these. And we don't need that one. Game state. Alright, so money is a little bit wonky the way they store it during your run. I think... yeah, they store like the last level's money and then also like whatever you've picked up in the current level. So let's go ahead and start. You're really good at moving a couch through a cube-shaped apartment without coming within an inch of end triangles. I think I know the problem you're discussing here. And moving couches through tight spaces is definitely a mathematical problem, to say the least. Where's the Cybertruck? That's the lease, right? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so this I think is the skin that I was told to play as, the car. Beautiful. I'm glad nobody made me play this when I was actually going to do runs. Because it was there. You could have made me play that during the cue ball co-op segment. Alright, so, money. So the way the money works in this video game, you pick up money, nothing happened in this value, it increased there. That's because it's actually stored down here. Here's the player items. I think I missed it. Right here, items. It's stored in the player items, in the player inventory, in player 1, as the money that they've picked up in the level. So I can grab some cash. I'm going to turn God mode on and go to the exit. And go through the door. So I've got 1800 or whatever there. And then when I leave this, it should move that money value up into... where is it? Up into this here. There it is. So now we have... that's where my score is being stored. So the way I would test this is I would give myself an insane amount of money and then pick up a few gold bars in the level. So let's go ahead and do that. State... oh my god, Hampton, shut up. State that money last levels equals... I don't know if it's signed or unsigned. I guess we'll find out. Expected numeric... oh, you can do this in Lua. Hold on. Yeah, you can do that in Lua. Why is it giving me grief here? Expected number received... expected number received number. Excuse me. That's not a very helpful error message. Okay, let's see here. I could check very quickly in the Overflow code to see what the type is for this. It might be signed. I don't know why it would be signed. You can't have negative money in this game. But we'll go check real quick. That's great, Chrome. Yeah, I know it's not there. I need to get to the GitHub page. Money last levels. Unsigned int 32. That should have worked. The number I entered isn't a number. Yes, it is. That is absolutely a number. That's a number right there. Expected number, received number. We're off to a great start with the science segment of our stream here. Okay, let's ease our way up then. Let's try that one. That doesn't work. Okay, I wonder if this is a float or something weird like that. Let's try a different approach. Okay, that works. We can do it in hexadecimal. I don't know why it's griping about this. So this I should have literally the maximum amount of money that you can have in this game now. Now it's not going to update in the UI yet, but if I leave this level and set my camera correctly, I should see an update in the next level. Yeah. Let's get these out of the way. There we go. Yeah, we could just fade all script messages. We don't need those. And that didn't work. Huh. It reset back to the one that I had before. Is this being stored somewhere else? I guess I actually don't know how the money values work. This is the money that I had collected as a player. Why did that not reset? Oh, you know what? I wonder if it recalculates this. This appears to persist across levels. Collected money count must be the amount I've collected in this level. No, that's the number of money items I've collected. Oh, I see how it works. Okay, this is the money you've collected in the current level. This is the amount you've collected in the run. And then this is like a running total that I think gets updated based on all the players' collected money values at the end of the run. So that means what I actually need to update is this. State.items.player inventory. Player 1. Collected money total. Alright. Now we have a very weird looking total up there, which this is already telling me this overflowed. I think we already know what's going to happen here, but let's go ahead and be diligent about this. That's not syntax. Oh, okay, you can. I wonder, can you make this happen in the game, or is this a UI bug? I wonder if the UI version of this is a signed integer. But the one in Spelunky that they exposed is unsigned. Interesting. Let me leave the level and see what this does. Alright, so we're able to set the game to have -$1. If I pick up any cash, it wraps back around to being positive. So I think the thing to check here is it actually unsigned? So let's set the money back to 0. I've collected no money in this level. And we're going to set our collected money total to the maximum signed integer. Okay, it actually blocks out at 9s, interestingly enough. The amount of money I actually have is 2 billion. But the user interface appears to block it out with just a bunch of 9s. Like, it won't display it once it goes past a certain threshold. But I wonder if I pick up any more money, will we get an extremely negative amount? Yep, it wraps negative. So they have a cap on the, like, maximum amount of money that you can have in a run. But they don't have a cap, they don't have, like, a lower limit on it. So if you pick up money and you go past the signed integer threshold, the UI actually displays a negative value. At which point, any money that I pick up in this run should just, like, bring that number closer back up to 0. So if I give myself, like, a bunch of diamonds, for instance. This is not terribly useful because we don't know a way to get this much money in a run. But you can see here that that'll bring the money all the way back around to 0. And if I were to do that when I had an extremely close amount of money, so let's go do this, then this is what we would see. And if I step on this, it's going to collect the money. And then when I leave the level, I think this number is going to get set back to something like reasonable, and the cycle would repeat itself. And there we go. It took that money, it added it to the total, and we've essentially just removed our infinite money by wrapping it around again. We can't even get infinite money with a monkey because Tiamat crashes the game. Okay, Remy, how would you go about doing that? I don't know about this monkey glitch that you appear to be mentioning. Like, if you mean golden monkeys will stop pooping after a while. Is there something with regular monkeys that you can use to, like, dupe gold? Okay, you're talking about HD. Yeah, in HD, you can use a monkey to steal a bunch of money from you, and I think if you and a hired hand touch it on the same frame, I believe that you duped the money. I think that was the premise of the infinite money dupe that you could get in Spelunky HD. We don't know of anything that could do that in Spelunky 2. Yeah, if you find a way to collect money twice, we don't know of a way to do that. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would imagine score runners have looked into this and haven't found anything, and I don't know of any way to do that either. I would definitely not say it's impossible, though. This is a very buggy game with a lot of very strange mechanics. The other possibility for infinite money is that there is an intended game mechanic that can create gold that we haven't found. But people have looked into stuff like... You think there is one? Well, I'm curious what it is. People have looked into stuff like getting, like, duot enemy spawns, but I guess they don't drop gems, is my understanding. So, like, you could spawn the Anubis 2 coffins, but the enemies it creates don't drop gems. I don't know if it's because of the Anubis 2 coffins or just in Duat they don't drop it for whatever reason. If you kill a hired hand and camera the Ghist, then use a Necro to revive it, you can get infinite coins from the Ghists. Yeah, let's go look at that. Let's just look at that and think about it, even if we can't get anything useful. You're not 100%? Well, we're about to be 100% on this, so... Let's just go to like 1-2 or something. I'm gonna turn on my pest control mod just to get all like the enemies and stuff to go away since we're gonna be dealing with hired hands. All right, so let's make a little cubby hole to test this out with our funny necromanced hired hand. All right, so I'm gonna spawn him from a coffin that'll make sure that he behaves normally. I think now Overlunky spawns them normally anyways. So we need a hired hand that is going to spawn a Ghist. I don't know how that mechanic works. I don't know like what the odds are of them doing that. I will go ahead and let's see. Let me curse myself as well. I do need to not die. Okay, if I hang out on this ladder, I don't think the Necromancer can hit me. Alright, so the Necromancer, actually he can't get me if I'm in here. Alright, we should be fine. So I could see Ghist if I'm cursed. If this hired hand dies, there is a chance that he will spawn a Ghist. So let's go ahead and get him killed by something. You know, what would be an easy way to do that? The Necromancer doesn't want to spawn any, like, skeletons or anything in there. Let me spawn some border tiles and I'll just blow them up. That'll be the easiest way to do this. This is your tomb now. Enjoy. Alright, hired hand had a funny accident, and we got a Ghist, nice. So this is not guaranteed, is it? I don't think you always get a Ghist from this. Alright, so he revived now. The Ghist is gone. And what I'm being told here is that if I take a picture of that Ghist and kill it, and then the hired hand gets revived, then I have a chance of getting another Ghist. So let's see how that would play out. So let's go ahead and get him killed again. I don't know if he'll always spawn a Ghist or not. So yeah, he didn't spawn one that time. But he did that time. So take a picture, kill him. Wait for him to spawn a Ghist. Yeah, it looks like that's technically a money dupe if you could arrange for this on the temple. The obvious issue would be the ghost. I feel like in theory, if you could stun lock the quad ghost with the camera while you're doing this, if you had the hired hand in like an infinite death trap and could stun lock the quad ghost while you were doing this, that could technically work. It would be very difficult. There's a lot of things that would go wrong here. This would be very hard to do. Nice rope. Let me move up here first. So if I'm not stun locking the hired hand, if you can get the hired hand to keep dying. So if you can get him to keep dying, you spam camera like this. Necromancer, can you just like... There we go. Okay, he's in range again. Now let me just add explosion to the saber. There we go. Okay, so let's see. How would this go in single player? It'd be interesting in co-op as well. So if you could somehow get the hired hand to keep dying, you could theoretically just farm infinite money by doing this, it looks like. Like every time he gets revived, he has to die again. So what would be capable of doing that in the level with necromancers, which they're not in City of Gold, so only temple levels would work. You can get them in the Sun Challenge, but they die at the end of it. Yeah, you could have a co-op player like just spam shooting the hired hand. And it's looking like the odds of getting a Ghist are... It feels like maybe like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10. Yeah, I got one there. I don't know if like Jay or whoever has like figured this out in the randoms yet, but it feels like it's maybe 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 that you get a Ghist every time you do this. And I might be destroying the Ghist drops, so let me do that. I'm aware this is very loud. I might need to... Is there a better way I can kill him? I can just spawn bullets on him. Let me do that. That's a lot quieter. There we go. You don't have to listen to the explosions anymore. I do these things for you, chat. Yeah, the Ghist odds look like maybe 1 in 5 to 1 in 10. I'm surprised we got one at the very beginning. Yeah, this is not ideal. But it doesn't look like there's any fundamental limit to how many times it could spawn. It's just RNG. Yeah, there's another one. That one was in the wall, though, so a little less optimal. You would have to get so many things to go right to be able to do this. Like, I thought the $1 score run was stupid, but this is also very dumb. And I'm losing a lot of the Ghist drops because the hired hand just... Oops. The hired hand keeps, like, going over to the wall. There we go. That'd be better. We have 2. You could technically have a few hired hands in here. That would probably be the right way to do this. I'm waiting for one more Ghist. I just want to see if another one spawns in. Pull it. I'm trying to make slow bullets. There we go. Look out, buddy. Alright, so that, in theory, could make infinite money. I believe there are many coins on the ground here. I think they're all on the right side. Let's see how much money is actually on the ground there. Let me turn on God mode. Was that? That didn't feel like very many coins. Do you have to pick up the coins while you're doing this? Oh, the hired hand's a bit collecting it. The new hired hand collected it. Okay. Yeah, the necroed ones don't. The new hired hand picked up the money. So yeah, this does work. This is an extraordinarily slow money dupe. I don't like it. Can anybody think of how you would articulate this in a single player run? In co-op, you would have a co-op teammate basically just bullet locking the hired hands by shooting at them. And you'd have a player with a camera, maybe like a player somewhere else in the level, or the player taking pictures of the Ghist would also have the 4 ghosts stun locked. And you'd have a necromancer somewhere in the level. And I think in theory, there's nothing preventing you from getting infinite money if you were willing to do that until the game crashed. It would be extraordinarily slow. Like the rate at which you could do this, it's taking like maybe 10 seconds to get a Ghist, like optimally. And you could have maybe like 4 or 5 hired hands in the pit if you're very careful about it. You don't know enough about the mechanics. I can't think of anything practical for single player. You just use a crush trap. That might not leave behind something that we need in order to do this properly. Yeah, we need them to come back to life. So there's nothing like theoretically preventing you from making this happen. You could like use a telepack to put the hired hands in like a box or something. You could do this for a while and have a player off to the side in like a little nook in the same box that's just like shooting at them the whole time. Just keeping them dead while somebody else takes pictures of them. I'm wondering if there's any way to do this in single player. How would you kill the hired hands in the box is the question without eventually the thing murdering them, killing them. Because I don't know if necromancer's hired hands even get attacked by things. It sounds like a sorceress. Yeah, the enemies, they do take damage from enemies, but they don't get attacked by enemies. And I think what would happen here is eventually your gunslinger is going to kill whatever is in the box trying to murder the hired hands. Yeah, like eventually whatever's in the box is going to die. The necromancer, I suppose, could keep resurrecting it if you get lucky. I mean, this right here seems like it could work in theory. If you had like a couple enemies with bodies in the box with the hired hands and a couple necromancers outside of the box, like if you had like a couple of them like this and then maybe like 2 sorceresses in the box, this could work. But the sorceresses are gonna be dead a lot. This would be, I think, possible, but extremely slow. Yeah, I feel like this right here is a working proof of concept for this, but this would be insanely slow as a money dupe. If the player at the bottom was shooting like just often enough that the sorceresses like could occasionally come to life, kill the hired hands, and then get killed again by the person with the shotgun. And they're gonna get like hit by the camera a bunch as well, but they'll deal hit stun damage when they get revived, so they don't have to actually spawn enemies. This, in theory, this should work if you had a friendly hired hand. In fact, we could spawn one right now, or a friendly player rather. We can spawn a friendly player to shoot the hired hands. So let me get a web. Item web. You just gotta turn around. Nice shotgun, dude. He's... Dude, turn around. Just face left. Thank you. Hydrate. Will do. This is incredibly loud. Why is that set to 4? What the hell? Why is my game volume that loud? I usually have it at 3, I think. Okay. Okay, that's a little better. So here's our simulated setup. I'm killing Ghist, actually. I don't need to be cursed. Yeah, don't worry about Homer. That's who I have over Anna. Well, folks, I mean, this is... You can see this occasionally working. I occasionally kill a Ghist. This is... Here's your infinite money farm. You can't get a web in Temple. The web is simulating a friendly player. Like, the web is my frame-perfect, like, co-op partner, shooting at the mess of enemies. Like, there doesn't need to be a web. This is for co-op. So in single player, how can we simulate this? I don't think a friendly hired hand would cooperate. So yeah, you can't get a web in Temple. Maybe you can get a jank crush trap vertical position such that the shopkeeper can't get through, but the bullets can. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The hired hands would go crazy. The hired hands are stun locked. They can't do anything in this situation. Like, they're going to die. The player would be a little further back, and I think the hired hands would not be able to do anything if the player literally never skipped a beat. Well, how could we potentially do this single player with like a shopkeeper? Yeah, the player would have a power pack as well, I think. So it's worth noting, crush blocks will attack hired hands that are necromanced, I believe, so we would need to maybe move the shopkeeper back a little bit. So let's see here. Game, I don't want to copy that. Alright, so this is the idea. You have a setup like this with a shopkeeper that keeps on firing, and you have a crush block in like a half tile position. Which you can do like this. Like, you can get offset crush traps if you have like 2 of them try to sandwich you in the same spot with slightly different timings. So in theory, you could have a crush block in a position like this. Just move it down a tiny bit. And absolutely, there we go. So something like this. Can the shopkeeper get through that? Yeah, he can. So maybe a little lower. This might prevent him from getting through it. Let's see. That's actually really good. Yeah, his pathfinding gets stuck. So this is your auto turret. This would be so difficult. Just do this. It's so easy. You're right. Why did I ever doubt that this was possible? All right, folks. I think this is it. Like, this is your theoretical, like, infinite money farm. If you could somehow get a setup like... What? Oh, one of the bodies! No, hold on a sec. We got a problem. One of the bodies got under the crush trap and ruined it. so easy. I know. How would we even prevent that from like something ragdolling under the trap and eventually ruining it? How would we prevent this? Like if a hired hand corpse gets over to the trap, it's ruined. I guess maybe a different offset if enough bullets get through. How tall is a dead hired hand body? Alright, so let's get them both killed. Alright, so they're both dead now. How tall is a necroed hired hand? I need to kill him again. Okay, a dead hired hand is that tall. Maybe a mummy could serve as a turret. Mummy flies are really bad at killing things because they don't knock back bodies, do they? Or is that just held bodies? I guess we can try a mummy turret. That would be another possibility for this. I feel like the mummy needs to be really far away, or eventually it's going to get killed by ragdolling bodies, I think, is an issue with this. Like, no matter what you do, you have to worry about the bodies getting out of the pit. You can't just put the mummy in the pit with the hired hands, because they're eventually going to die. And they're going to get ragdolled into it, and they're going to ruin everything. So, like, it's not quite that simple. I don't think it's just get a mummy. So let me move this down a little bit more. You would somehow need to protect the mummy from ragdolls. That's the thing that I feel like would go wrong here. Okay, so this arrangement should be able to prevent the hired hands from getting out, just slightly lower. And the hired hand can't see it, so this could work potentially. I believe it'll work. Let's add the sorceresses. So this just needed a slightly different setup with the crush block. I'm surprised that bullet was in there for that long. And you don't need to be cursed to do this. You can see occasionally the coins will pop out when a Ghist gets killed by the camera. And I can kill the Ghist at any time while it's like fading away, so it's not like super precise for the player with the camera. Yeah, there's one. So this might work. Like, I feel like this right here might work potentially because the hired hand can't get under the crush block. And most likely you'd articulate this situation with something like this. Like, you would bring it in from the top, most likely. Power pack? Yeah, the player could have a power pack, but I don't think it makes any difference. It would just make this slightly easier to do. This is so loud. Let me turn the game volume down again. We don't need to hear all this audio. Maybe I'll turn that back up later. Yeah, we would need like a normalized setup. Unlike the $1 score run, I don't think I have any plans on trying to do this. We're just kind of theory crafting like what you could potentially set up for an infinite money score run. Because again, throughout all of this, you've got the 4 ghosts. So you would have to somehow like deconstruct this when you're finished. Let me just get the right vibe going. You would have to somehow deconstruct this mess that you built, like when you were actually finished with the whole thing. So you could maybe blow some stuff up. You could like trigger that trap. And the thing is, you have 4 ghosts in front of you the whole time that you're doing it. I mean, in theory, everything here is possible. Like, you would bait the trap upward. You'd eventually get the shopkeeper killed. You could magic a path to the right beforehand. Like, you could have anything to the right. You could have no ceiling as well. Like, yeah, this could be opened up. The necromancers could be down here, or like closer to the pit where you could stun lock them with the camera. Like, you could put the necromancers in a hole like that. And then when you're done with this, you would like you could jump up to the top or something. You need to just make sure that like the skeletons can't get to you specifically. Have player 2 stun lock. Like, we're trying to do this without player 2. We know this is possible with player 2 or multiple players. It's easier. But this setup uses a shopkeeper as the turret because I feel like a mummy would die a lot and be less efficient. In theory, I think there's no reason why you couldn't have a mummy over here in this same spot, but you need like the crush trap wall to prevent an errant like hired hand from getting knocked through this hole, which we saw happen. Like, just depending on how they move around, there might be a small chance of a hired hand getting knocked through that hole, and the mummy would die eventually. I don't know what the odds are for it, but we saw it happen once. I think it's just a matter of like one of them moving a little bit and then getting hit by the sorceress at just the wrong time. Maybe a skeleton did it as well. We know it can happen, so we have to assume that we need to block the bodies from getting out of the pit. Any other... I don't know, I'm kind of at a dead end here. Like, again, the cleanup pass for this would consist of just killing everything in the pit, maybe with some combination of, like, bombs, and then just pick up the money and get out without the ghosts, like, unstunning, which would be very tight, but theoretically possible to do. But there's nothing specifically preventing it from happening. I don't know, any other thoughts for this? Or any other money dupes that we could investigate? I'm kind of at a dead end here. Like, if you want, I guess I could try to, like, execute the escape maneuver. Maybe spawn, like, a power pack or something. But, like, let's see, I guess, if I can get in there and escape this mess. I need to not set off the trap. Let me just not risk moving the trap here. So like, this is what your setup would look like. And you would have ghosts. So it's worth noting the ghost will split when not in the camera. I believe this pauses the timer. So I suppose if you're being really diligent about this, you don't have a quad ghost. If you can get the single ghost in here and perma-lock her with the camera, then you don't have the quad ghost, as long as you don't miss a tick here. Let's see how this looks. Toolbox, entity tester, let's pick the ghost. This is all assuming your game doesn't eventually crash while you're doing this bullshit. Yeah, so split timer. Chat, watch the split timer to see what's going on here. We don't need game state anymore. No, it is actually going down. So what happens then? Is it going to get locked to 0, or does the ghost actually split in the camera? I thought the split timer doesn't go down. It doesn't go down when you're in a door, I believe. Let's see what happens. 10 seconds. Game certainly crashes. As far as you know, it doesn't split. I think you're right. I think it'll go down to 0 and it won't split until the unstun. Yeah, it's at 1. So what's going to happen here is I think on the frame that I stopped taking pictures, the ghost would split in this situation. At which point you would have 2 ghosts to deal with. So let's say I'm done with my money farm. I have infinite money down there. What do I do to get the cash? And I think what I do is I actually just leave and let the ghost like run away, and then I just throw bombs in there, try to kill the necromancies, and then come back to it. We're not being chased by the quad ghost, so if I had decent mobility, I think I would be fine. It wouldn't quad split. Yeah, that's the thing. We're gonna get 2 ghosts, and 2 ghosts is reasonably easy to deal with, especially with the camera. So yeah, I think what you do is you just bomb the hell out of this mess, like, after you're done. Let's go ahead and try it. I have God mode turned on, but let's go ahead and try it. So we're done. Let's go over here now. And just kind of move away. I think one of the hired hands got killed by that. So I want to get this ghost. Like, we're playing with camera here. That would have stunned me, but like you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here. So the necromancers are both dead. We don't have to worry about anything getting rezzed. Okay, well, there goes split anyway. Where's the money? Where's the money? Have we not been paying attention to how much money was in that pit? Surely I had more money in that pit than that, right? Something's off about this. Does this dupe actually work, or was this all for nothing? Or did like a crush block pulp all the money? Did anybody see whether or not like the money got destroyed by that crush block? I find it weird to think that it all would have. Because that block spawned there. Something ain't right about this. Could have been the crush. Well, the crush trap went up. The crush trap did not interact with the money at all. Let me get rid of the ghosts. I think this might not work. We didn't test how much money was in the pit. You know, Happy, you're having a good time. You can stay. I feel like I should have had more money than that. After all the time I spent doing that is the thing that's weird to me. Okay, let's be diligent about this. Maybe this didn't work at all, and I'm just a big dumb. So let's spawn another pit with hired hands. We're gonna carefully count how much money is in there. Actually, let me just instant restart. Okay, so we're gonna put some hired hands in a box, and we're gonna very carefully pay attention to how much money is, how many Ghists are spawned. So one hired hand should be tethered. Yeah, okay, he's tethered. So he could die to anything in here, it doesn't really matter. Then we need a necromancer. And then we need him to die to something. We got bullets for that. Just a few bullets. Camera. You'll see the hitbox of the Ghist when it decides to spawn in, and then we need to spawn like a sorceress or something that'll eventually murder him while he's in here. Okay, so he's dead, no Ghist. No Ghist. This is taking a while. Let me just spawn more enemies in there. Or what can I spawn in there that would kill him instantly? I guess I could just put like a thorn vine. Thorn vine. I could just put a thorn floor in there to just simulate him getting killed faster. Yeah, okay, he'll revive, fine. Alright, so let's keep an eye out and see when a Ghist spawns in. A croc? Croc will teleport out when the ragdoll inevitably stuns it. I'm looking for the hitbox of the Ghist, like spawning above the hired hand. It just hasn't shown up yet. I don't need to be cursed for the Ghist to spawn, do I? It should be there, even if I'm not cursed. I'm waiting for the hitbox to show up. There's one. Let me move the... Okay, whatever, I'll make a new necro. I want to move the necromancer up a little bit more so that the Ghist isn't in the ceiling. Yeah, you can see a second one there as well. Alright, so we got another necromancer now. Okay, so we've killed one Ghist. I did not kill the other one. Let's wait for the necromancer to do his thing. Well, actually, let's do a control test. How much money is in here? 3 coins. Alright, so the Ghist drops 3 coins when it dies. There's another one. I mean, it's possible that I just got very, very little money from that mosh pit earlier. Ghist drops 3 coins. Yeah, okay. I didn't know if it was 3 or 5. I thought it was 5, but I had never tested this. That Ghist didn't drop any money. Did it just fade out? This is a problem. Why are they able to spawn skeletons on the thorns? That's annoying. Just faded out. Okay. I think maybe this works, but it's just extremely inefficient is the problem. Why are they spawning so many skeletons down here? Let me go back to 1, just so he stops doing that. Yeah, I only have 1. I had 2 in the other pit. In a real run, you'd have like 8. I mean, I guess if you got lucky, you could get 9. If you went like Vlad's Castle and got a lot of hired hands along the way, and then went Temple and got a Coffin hired hand in that level, you could have 9, I think. Pretty sure that's the max that you could get by that point is 9 hired hands. So I think this does work. It just is incredibly inefficient. Let's go ahead and spawn more. Okay, so here's like our best case scenario. You get a level with like 3 necromancers and 9 hired hands, and then, okay, you know what, 10 hired hands. There's 1 in the shop. We got 10 hired hands, and then there could be an 11th hired hand in the back layer of the shop that had the first hired hand. 11 hired hands. I can't think of a way that you could get more. Maybe if you have a ton shop, you get a 12th hired hand. 12 hired hands. So here's our, pretend that this clusterfuck of like spikes down here is the mess that we were using with like a shopkeeper. Like just pretend that this is like the shopkeeper setup that we had. You would not have thorns in the temple. You don't have any way to like just deal contact damage to them like this. The sorceresses could potentially work, but it would be even slower with the sorcerer's camera. I have it set to low. Look, it's fine. It's not that bad. Get your flashbang emotes ready. You want to know what a bad streamer would do? Brace yourselves. I think it's in graphics. Bright flashes. This is the default. Is this what you want, chat? Is this what you want? Be grateful for the things that you have. It's awful. It is terrible. I don't know why that's the default value. I set it to low because I want to see the flashes. The high is terrible. Like, this is fine. There's no way that this is causing problems. I'm looking at this on the stream. It's just like a minor like brightening of the screen for a second. Alright, so I'm paying attention to see like what's going on here. Are we getting more of these? Let me move up a little higher. Okay, that gets the necromancers. And let me put them all in a box over here. There we go. Okay, so this should be able to get basically all the Ghists. Yeah, it's still spawning coins. The hired hands are not picking them up, so I think maybe the previous one was working. It was just taking forever. Why are we doing this? Oh hi Fink. I guess I didn't realize you were just stopping by. We are exploring an infinite money exploit. So if we were doing this a little more realistic, let's kind of go back to the setup that we had before. So you wouldn't have this. You wouldn't have thorns. You can only work with the tools that you get in the temple. So the thought would be you put a ton of enemies in this box, and you collect, like, I think I have 3 necromancers. I have 11 or 12 hired hands. And then you just do this and kill the Ghist as they spawn in. Is there an entity limit? Coins do not despawn. The game just crashes eventually. There's no entity limit in this game. It will eventually crash. I mean, technically there's an entity limit. It's the integer limit. It's about 4 billion. But like, realistically, your game's gonna crash before then. Can Temple be dead or restless? Yeah, it can. Pretty sure it can, right? Surely, can it? Hold on a sec. Can it? Let me think. What is the dead or restless tile in the temple? It can. Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't remember what the dead or restless room looks like. It spawns cobwebs. Okay, yeah, that's actually nice then. The vampire would probably die eventually. A vampire's not nice for this. I'm going to kill the vampire with the camera eventually. You can't use a vampire, but the cobwebs are interesting. So you could use the shopkeeper turret. Vampire drinks blood though. If I take one picture of the vampire, it dies. And I think that would be unstable. I'm pretty sure eventually the vampire would get killed by the camera. So I don't think that's a viable choice. Yeah, so vampire, it's a good thought, but vampire is not good. It would eventually wake up and jump and get hit by the camera and instantly die. And then we just have a cape in the box. What we've got going on here isn't ideal too. I guess one thing that you would want to do maybe is have a smaller pit. Okay, I think all the hired hands got out of that corner, so you would want a smaller pit like this as well. And then you would also want to not have a ceiling on it. This is kind of the arrangement you're looking for. And Temple generates holes like this sometimes, and you could also like dig one out potentially. But yeah, this is a good arrangement here because this basically means if the Necromancer resurrects a Sorceress, it's going to kill any hired hands that are in the pit, like, immediately. Also, that loud clicking noise you're hearing is the entire pile of coins getting booped up into the air and then hitting the ground in one frame. Like, that click is not like an audio glitch with my stream, it's the pile of coins hitting the ground. Yep, you can see the 3 coins get spawned, so I think this does work. If I were to go in there... Yep, so you would have temple money scaling while doing this, which I think is... What is temple money scaling? 1, 2... It's just 2 times the dwelling, isn't it? Let's see, it's 25% increase per level. So it's dwelling, then jungle, then... Yeah, it's Ice Caves is 2 times. It's not quite 2 times. It's 1.75, I think. So it's a little bit better. Yeah, we did this during the fucking $1 score run. Which, by the way, will be going on the YouTube channel when I finally set that up. I have it uploaded to the channel, but the channel itself is not, like, prepared yet. I'm deciding if I want to unveil the channel with the tool-assisted speedruns or not, but I do have an upload of the $1 score run. But yeah, the multiplier is 1.75, and coins are usually worth 500. So you're gonna get $875 per coin. So this is, I have literally like the optimal setup here. Look how fucking slow this is. We have basically been farming money since the start of this level, and we don't even have like 100k from doing this for the whole level. So this is insanely inefficient to do this. I would kind of be astonished if the game would last long enough. The only issue is the ghosts. Well, again, the theory behind this was that you have the ghost stun locked with the camera. So you have the ghost like this in the pit. Actually, it would be higher up so it doesn't get hit. The ghost can't hit the hired hand bodies either. There's so many things that could go wrong here. If the hired hands hit the ghosts, they get killed, even if they're necroed hired hands, so they cannot touch the ghost. It has to be, like, up here. So you somehow have to set up all of this shit and then get the ghost into the right position. And then you stand here and do this for a long fucking time. So if we're hypothetically trying to beat the score world record for, like, no CO... So the score world record is about 10 million, I think. Something like this. It's about 10 million. So what's our current pace? So let's generously say we're getting 100k every 10 minutes. So every minute we're getting 10k. Oh, it's Ted Cuddy. So we're getting 10k every minute, and we want to beat the world record. So it's going to take this many minutes to beat the world record. 1,000 minutes. 1,000 divided by 60. You are going to be standing here for like 17 hours to beat the world record if you manage to get this set up. And then just like went to bed and your game didn't crash, and then when you were finally done, you managed to safely collect all of the coins in the pit. Furthermore, how many coins would that be? if you pick them all up at once, because you're not going to be able to go into this pit until you like bomb it out. So how many coins would that even be in the pit? There are going to be 11,000 coins in this pit when you pick them all up. I think it's gold coin? Yeah, gold coin. We're gonna spawn it in the pit. 118. The syntax I think is layered out front and then velocity. Alright, there are now 11... Yep, that's what I'm doing, Remy. I'm way ahead of you. I think the game might freeze if I pick these up. Did I ever answer if the game will let you spend the money when it's in the negative? I never saw that question. I'll check on that. This is the money segment of our like science, so I'll check on that after I crash my game here. There are 11,000 coins in this pit. Oh no, I'm not frame advancing. I'm not frame advancing. Like this is native speed. It's gonna take a lot more than like 13 hours to do this. This is the frame rate of the game. Like this is going to get worse the more coins you put in the pit. According to Steam, the game is running at 2 frames per second right now. It ticks down to 1 occasionally. This is not happening. Like you're not doing this. You're not beating the world record by doing this. This is absolutely insane. I would rather go fucking buy an old school RuneScape subscription and get a max level account, because that would probably be faster than doing this. This is just insane. You would be running this like on a computer on the side for real world like weeks, I think, to beat the world record by duping coin. Oh no, nope, it's not responding. My game might have crashed. So something knocked back the pile of coins on the ground. I didn't even get to pick up the coins. Something hit them and knocked them into the air, and now my game is frozen because it's simulating the physics. All right, 1 frame. We advanced 1 frame. All right, they're gonna move again in a few seconds. All right, here it comes. Next frame. Next slide, please. Any second now. Like the game is simulating 11,000 coins, like updating their physics very inefficiently by the look of things. And based on the fact that they're on top of the hired hands, I wouldn't be surprised if the game is actually running collision 2 checks on the hired hands, where it's considering whether or not the hired hands could pick up the coins. All right, it moved again. Now they're over on the right side. But I think every single frame, the game is running collision 2 checks between the coins and the hired hand bodies that are in this pit, if I had to guess what's going on here. I don't really have a good way to check on that right now. I could be wrong about that. Either way, it is taking literally like 30 seconds per frame. We're at that. We're not, this is not frames per second. We're in seconds per frame territory right now. This is taking like 30 seconds to a minute per frame. Technically, this isn't an infinite money glitch. I think the game had its own way of preventing us from doing this. Like in theory, if I had like infinitely like good computer performance, I think this would work. There's no reason why it wouldn't. Unless there's like a fundamental game crash that's going to happen at some point here. But my computer can't do this, and I think even if you had a really good PC, this game still runs on a single thread. I'm fairly certain you would not be able to actually do this. Like, we're still waiting on that frame. It's like at least a minute per frame right now. This is madness. Yeah, if money could hurt enemies in this game, I mean, that might be able to kill the enemies a little more efficiently, but there were a leprechaun picking up the coins and you just pop him. I kind of want to do that. I want to see the leprechaun pick up 11,000 coins. Like that would be sick if you had a leprechaun and you just like at the end of this you chucked the leprechaun into the pit. let him pick up the money and teleport somewhere else, and then you killed him to gather the coins and just left the level. Like, you just throw him in to gather the money for you. Like, I think if you stopped stun locking everything in the pit and had a leprechaun in there, he wouldn't have time to teleport out with the money because he would keep getting killed and reset. But if you stopped stun locking, the leprechaun would wake up, collect all the money, and then teleport away. He would have to jump on one of the hired hands to do that, and I don't know if they can jump on hostile hired hands. Okay, I'm gonna teleport myself into the pit. I don't know if we could do this, or if I should just take the L on this playthrough and restart my game. I just tried to teleport my character into the pit to collect the money. I want to see if this just straight up like crashes my game. But I think we're at the reasonable conclusion to this theoretical like world record score run. We spawned enough coins in this pit to beat the world record, and we've confirmed that this would take weeks in real life to finish. All right, is it gonna TP me in? I'm spamming like right click to teleport into the pit with Overlunky, and it's not letting me do it. And I can't like type in commands because literally my game is freezing between frames right now. For like $1 million, you could probably do it. You could maybe, yeah, you could beat an IL in Temple. I don't know what the world record is. I guess we got plenty of time to go check, so I'm opening Moss ranking here. Follow along if you want, but I'm not gonna show it on stream right now. So where are the score ILs? There they are. Let's see. So for Temple Echoes. Okay, so the world record for a normal Temple level is 547k. Chimero has almost every single score IL record. I suppose I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, and then for Temple Echoes, it's a little higher. Nobody has a $1 million Temple level, so if you just like got a $1 million IL in Temple and left, you would have the world record for that. And it would technically be legit, I think, because I don't believe there are any rules against money duping glitches, because we haven't found any, but odds are they would be like, yeah, don't do that. That's not allowed. Let me see. There might be a catch-all actually in the score rules for Moss ranking, so this might not even be viable for an IL. Is there a catch-all for money duping and score? Let's see here. I don't see anything about score specifically. Let me check chat. There are no rules against it. Just use that by, yeah, use the infinite money to buy a computer that can get infinite money. Why didn't I think of that? That's the thing. You would submit that run, and I think that would trigger the discussion for whether or not you should ban this, which I think the answer would be yes. It would be a novelty to submit it. But if I hypothetically did this run, which again, I don't plan to. Oh, we can actually do things while we're paused. If I hypothetically did this run, which I do not plan to do at all, you could submit it, and I think that would just like spawn the discussion to ban it. It would be interesting. It would be a novelty, kind of like how I submitted a $1 score run, except that's not going to get removed because that's not against the rules. So I can actually put myself in the pit and pick up the money now and see what happens. So let me do that real quick. Let's see, we want to go to... I want to put myself in the pit, like in the center, where I'll hopefully touch all the money on the first frame. Actually, I see the hitboxes. They're all on the right side, so let's just place myself on top of the coins. So what I'm expecting to hear is an ear-piercing sound of me picking up 1 million coins all at once, and then the game is going to freeze, and we're not going to be able to do anything anymore. That's what I think is going to happen when I unpause here. We didn't even get the sound. Alright, well, let's let this run for a minute while we theory craft this. Yeah, so you would submit the run, they'd ban infinite score, I think is what would happen. In Spelunky HD, isn't there a distinction between duping and no duping for your score runs? Because there are known dupes. Oh wow, that game actually advanced a frame. Holy shit, it picked them up! It didn't crash, you could actually pick them up. Look at my score go. Look at the top right. Now, mind you, we're in Dwelling, so we're not going to get the 10 million. Just look at it go. I mean, if there was ever a payoff for something like this, it's the sweet relief of running your game at 30 seconds per frame for like 2 weeks straight and then collecting the money at the end. Like, if you somehow manage to get into that pit at that frame rate and collect all the money, this is what you would be rewarded with. And then you would go to the end of the level. You don't have to. Technically, it counts as the score run if you were to die getting the money. That's beautiful. It's just watching the number go up. Interestingly enough, it's actually capped at 512 coins. So we're not going to be listening to this 11,000 times. It's actually limited to 512 coins before the game stops tracking which ones you've picked up in the level. So this would not last forever, though I don't know why these two are blank. What did I pick up in this slot that the game is unable to show? Like, why are there just two missing? Those are the only two that are gone. Yeah, literally everything else here is a coin. There's a ruby that I picked up from the sorceress. I remember that being in there. And then for some reason, around like 490, it's just two of these don't work. Huh. I don't know. Infinite score strategies are banned. Collecting the Ankh is also banned. That's for HD, right? Because I don't think they've done that for Spelunky 2 because nobody has found a duping glitch. Like a practical one. We have a duping glitch here. I didn't discover this. I think Remy told me about this just now. We have a duping glitch, but it's so impractical that I don't think they would ban this unless somebody like weaponized it. Like, if you managed to do this to a few hired hands before you left the level, I feel like they would be okay with that. It's only if somebody set it up for like an infinite combo like I did that it would become a problem. And again, unless we find an easier setup for this, I have no plans on doing this in a real run. The $1 score run was like an attainable goal. It was reasonable. It didn't require me to fucking record my game for weeks straight to construct a score run where I pick up even the $1 million would probably take like the better part of a day of just mashing. And I don't think you could even use an auto clicker because that's cheating. You have to be there doing this for however many hours it takes to do this as a real player before you could submit your score run. Yeah, that's what Adrian's saying. You can't use macros. I would have to theoretically do this myself. Or come up with like some automated setup where I could get like a shopkeeper to shoot them all for me and then have like a hired hand with a camera or something. And they never use the camera. Could you bring 8 hired hands? You would bring 8 hired hands. You would get a coffin hired hand, a shop hired hand, a back layer hired hand in the shop attic, and then a ton shop for 12 hired hands. That's how you would do this. You could have 12 hired hands in that pit. I don't think there's a way to get more than that. And you can only bring 8 into the level with you because the game caps it at 8, like 8 followers. You can actually see the number here. You can only have 8 companions per player. Like, I'm looking at player 1's like level end, whatever, and it's this. So on top of that, you would need a ton of good RNG to even get that many. But you could theoretically bring 8 hired hands if you get 4, and then like in Vlad's castle, and then find 4 elsewhere in the run. Your video footage needs to have consistent FPS above 20. I think they would waive that restraint if the game was literally running at that frame rate through no fault of your own. Like, it has to run at that frame rate. It's not just like shitty video quality. I think what they're actually getting at with the frame rate is that they want your capture to sync up with like the game's frame rate. But if the game itself is running at 24 or less frames per second, I think they would be okay with that. I think what they specifically want is for the video frame rate to reasonably match the game so that you can like frame advance and reasonably tell what's going on. There we go. We did all 512. Oh, chat, we killed a lot of Ghist in this level. Okay, we killed 79 Ghists, and then I spawned in the rest of the coins in order to do that. And we killed a bat, apparently. But yeah, I think they would allow that because, like, the intent of video proof standards is that the video is watchable, like, compared to the game's frame rate. But I mean, if my game is advancing at 1 frame every 60 seconds and my recording matches that, that's it. Like, there's no lost footage to the game. The game is literally running at that speed. They might argue that maybe that's like cheating, I guess, because like you're basically playing the game with slowdown. There's a lot of things that you could argue make this run invalid. Like, that would be such insane slowdown. Like, if I were to do like a speed run where my game was running at like 1 frame per second because I like throttled my CPU and then I got a world record running the game at 1 frame per second, I think they would call that cheating. But I mean, technically my game is running at 1 frame per second. It's not that my recording is bad, my game is just really slow. But then again, if I do a score run where my game is running at 1 frame per second, is that invalid? There's so many things here that like push the limits of what Moss ranking intended for me to do with my rules. And I don't intend to like push my luck with this. There are so many problems with this idea. If somebody else wants to like take the torch and try to do this, you be my guest. It ain't gonna be me. I'm not gonna be the one that does it. Not unless we find a better way to do this. Like, if there was a way to do this where you could collect the coins in the middle of the process and get them faster, that would be better. But even with, again, like, we showed how long it took me to even get like 100k when I was doing this normally. It was really slow. Like, it was incredibly slow just to get to the 100k. It took me like 10 minutes. The rate was 10k per minute. In the best case scenario, this was 12 hired hands, 3 necromancers, and like some crap in the pit with them. And we were able to get about 10k per minute doing that. That is insanely slow. Chimero doesn't have to worry right now, not unless we discover some more tech for how to do this. So Chimero could rest easy. I think we're done with this part of it, so there's a couple things I want to look at for money. We're doing money. This is the money segment of the stream here. So Adam wanted to know if you can buy from shops while you have negative money, whether or not it's a signed or an unsigned integer. And I think Overlunky is actually wrong. I think it's an unsigned integer, but that could be the user interface. So we're going to find out. This is how we tell in the game engine whether it's signed or unsigned, is whether or not you could buy from shops. The solution is to put an apple in there. Yeah, we need less stability in this run, don't we? Just get a ton in the pit and see if you could somehow make anything useful happen. Alright, so let's see. We're messing around with that. I'm going to do something that's probably going to crash my game. Did we really not get a shop? This fucking game, dude. The totem trap took up the 2 tiles that could have been a shop. Like, these 2 rooms could have been shop, and they both got the idle trap instead. So there just isn't a shop in this level. Alright, so let's go set our score. So collected money total. So this is the ultimate negative score right there. We have player 1 has collected 4 point whatever billion dollars. This basically overflows all the way back around to -1. Let me actually set this to this value here. There we go. So that is the most negative amount of money you can get. If we go any lower than that, it'll actually wrap around to positive. If I pick up any money, my score will go up as well. Can I purchase items from a shop in this state? Anybody want to make predictions? Like, not stream predictions. Anybody want to take a guess before we do it? It's a question of whether or not the user interface uses a different data type than the actual game. You think no? Okay, so remember, if the game uses signed integers, then the answer would be no. If the game uses unsigned integers, the answer would be yes, you can buy from this shop, and it'll actually give us positive money. I'm trying to think, like, the Overlunky devs set this to an unsigned integer. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say I can buy these items from the shop. Nope, you cannot. Alright, I was incorrect. So it is using signed arithmetic to check whether you can afford these shop items. Whoever guessed that was correct. You win nothing. You get a pat on the back. You get a sense of pride and accomplishment. Now, if we set ourselves to the max value, we can buy items, as you'd expect. And if we set ourselves to the max int value, just ignore that, that's close enough. Once again, you can't. So the game is doing signed arithmetic for buying shop items. Yeah, just throw that money in the money hole. Just donate the last like $4.29 billion we had in the money hole. That's what we're doing here with our money. Alright, let's see. So that answers that. I hope Adam is still here to see that. If not, I can answer it next stream or whatever. And we got a stonks in chat. Surely Adam is satisfied now. So, we're absolutely investing in dwelling right now. Any other questions about the money? There is one thing I want to test that is really silly. That might crash my game. Leprechauns do pick up money. So theoretically, in that mosh pit, if you had a leprechaun in the pit, I think you could use him to farm cash and like collect the money for you. No, he drops it when he dies, though. Yeah, that's a problem. He drops the money when he dies. But let's pretend for a second that we were able to... Let's see here. Let's stun lock him. This is dumb. Like what we're checking here is incredibly stupid and unlikely to amount to anything. But I want to see like what happens if you had a leprechaun in that temple level. If you needed even more RNG to make this like even more convoluted than it was already. So the way leprechauns work is they have this hump timer value. And then after they finished humping, they have another timer that says they could teleport away. He will only teleport away if the amount of money he has is greater than 1,000 in his inventory. I believe that's the number that it checks for. So you can see the timer after humping going down. Let me get that out from under chat. I'll put it over here if anybody says anything. This is the value of interest right here. He's not going to teleport because he doesn't have enough money in his inventory. But if he has more than 1,000 shekels, he will teleport. Now if I do this... That pauses his timer, but he will still attempt the teleport. Look, I didn't name these AFK. Go ask Dragu or whoever on the Overlunky team named that. They called it hump timer and timer after humping. It was probably Dragu that named that. I would have called it probably like hump teleport timer or something, but this is what they went with here. Or maybe just teleport timer is probably what I would have called it. I would have used hump timer for the first one though. That's a good name. Hump timer is on point. So let's say you had this little fucker stun locked in here, and you had a necromancer, and let's get him killed by something. Will his timer reset if he dies in there? So go ahead and spawn a bullet. I forget if he spawns a new clover if he gets revived as well. We'll see if that happens. It's still 74. Interesting. But this means that it keeps going down, and that means he is going to eventually get a frame to teleport out. I think. Let's see, let's simulate infinite death with thorns. We're not going to put any hired hands in there. Let's simulate the death loop with thorn vines this time. Actually, no, he can't take any damage while stunned. Huh, what could even damage him in there? I guess just like the mosh pit of bodies would be able to damage him. Because if he wakes up, what is he going to do? Oh, the timer actually doesn't go down at all. He must need to, like, be on the ground. Okay, well, that's not a very good way to simulate this, then. But if he's like this... Yeah, it starts going down again the second he's on the floor. He's gonna teleport out if he has any money, is the issue here. So he needs to, like, stay dead or stun locked in this pit until you're completely done. So if you manage to get that to happen through some combination of like a shopkeeper gunning him down constantly, and he has a hump timer that hasn't hit 0 yet, and you spawned 11,000 coins in the pit with the leprechaun, and then he ran away with them. Let's just see how that plays out when we kill him. So he's gonna go somewhere else in the level. Alright, buddy, this is more money than any leprechaun has ever seen in his life. He choked when he saw hump timer again. I didn't name these. Thank Draggy for that one. Alright, so we run in low frame rate now. There he goes. He picked them all up. I don't know why there was such a delay on that. Alright, and then he teleports out. So if we go find this guy and kill him, he should have all of that gold in his inventory. That's not much. Why is that? He doesn't have enough money. He should have $1 million in his inventory. Why does he not? Is there like a limit on how many he could pick up per frame or something? Or is that how many gold chunks he's picked up? I'm pretty sure it's the amount of money he has. Where is he? There he is. Where is... I'm so confused, right? Where is that in memory? Am I not reading this correctly? He has the coins. Why? I'm looking at the right side of the screen, chat, where it says gold. Why does that not say like 1 million? That's the amount of money he has, not like the number of coins he picked up. Like that's the amount of cash he has in his inventory. That's what that measures. I wonder if the devs use the wrong data type for the money that the leprechaun is holding. I need to pick these up. I need to get my frame rate back. I think the devs... Dude, this card, it's just... We're going back in time. We gotta go back, Marty. We gotta go back to the future. No, we gotta crash our game. Never mind. We're not going back to the future. We're going back to desktop. Might be in a separate array. I don't think it stores the type of money he picked up. I think it... Well, actually, you know, let's go. While our game is frozen, while we go back to the future... Let me go look at the data for the leprechaun. I wonder if there's unexposed variables for this. It stores the type of money. Maybe they haven't actually exposed that yet. But he still dropped 11,000 coins. I wonder if maybe they get like parented to the leprechaun. Let me see. Let's go have a look at this. I'm not sharing this right now. Let me see if there's anything interesting. No, it's just the variables I'm showing. Those are the only variables that are exposed. Yeah, okay, there's nothing to share here. The variables you see on the right are the only ones that are exposed in Overflow. He could have the money on his character entity. Like, it could still be loaded into the game. I'm checking to see if there's any unexposed data. Is my game unfrozen yet? No, it's... I think it's at the end. I think the game finally kicked the bucket on this one. I'll restart it if nothing shows up in a second here. So let's see here. There is an unknown pointer in the struct, but it's probably filler. And then the amount of gold he picked up is it's a UN 16. Interesting. So that's 16 bits. That's about 65,000 is the limit for how much money he can hold, but it could be that he stores the money that he picked up on his character entity, and then also they have an amount of gold that is used to check quickly whether or not he should teleport after he's picked up more than 1,000, and that probably looped 11,000 times. Like it overflowed because of how much money he picked up, probably a few dozen times, and it happened to be high enough to still count for a teleport. All right, my game's frozen. All right, that's the first crash of the day. We actually bricked the game. I don't know if that was going to come back or not. Goodbye, Spelunky. The first of many. Yeah, we may have more of these. We're going to be testing apples. If you don't know what apples are, there are apples in this game, just not the way you think there are. There's also meatballs, apparently, but we're testing apples this time around. So let's get Overflow running. We're doing that later, though. Not yet. We're still doing a little bit more money science. Yeah, I'm going to look into the apples today, I think. Unless I get sidetracked, the apples are high up on the list of things I want to look at. Look at he go. Homer's having a blast. Alright, so get back into the game. Anybody want to redeem a skin before I go in? Here's the catalog. I'll give you a second here while I think about what I want to do. So I want to look into how the Leprechaun stores money, but not with 11,000 coins. I'll give you like a minute, chat, while I hydrate here. Alright, we have our choice. Normal Rafi, of course. I don't have front-facing Rafi installed. This is just normal Rafi. Looking at you. Alright, I got mode back on. Alright, so a little more funny testing with the Leprechaun. That's, I think, what we need. Put this out of the way of chat. If I'm ever showing you something and like the chat overlay is on top of text and you can't read anything, please tell me so I move it. I might forget about doing that. Good arrow whip. Alright, so let's get our leprechaun friend here. Make him a nice, cute little pit. Okay, so how does this guy, like, store money is the question. Let's give him some diamonds, something easy to test. Alright, so first of all, diamonds are worth 5k in this place. So if you wanted to, for instance, overflow his money counter, you need to give him 13 diamonds and then like a little bit of extra cash, and that should theoretically overflow his money counter, because I believe it is a unsigned int, was what they were showing. And I'm talking about this gold counter here, and I believe this is not used to store the money he drops upon death. It's here to store just like whether or not he has enough cash. They could do the arithmetic for this, but they didn't for whatever reason. Let me get rid of that before I crush him with that. Alright, so let's get this little stinker to hold still. So let's see, what does he have in his inventory? He has no items. Yeah, the leprechaun isn't holding anything. What is he gonna drop if I kill him then? Is he gonna drop a diamond or coins? He dropped the diamond. How does the leprechaun know which thing to drop is the question here. So he picked it up again. How does the leprechaun store this information? Any thoughts? Is there anything I'm missing here? I have one theory for how he stores like what he picked up. I'm curious if chat has anything else. I'm wondering if there is an unexposed variable at the end of the struct that the Overlucky devs didn't find. That's just like an array of things that he's picked up. But he picked up 11,000 coins and dropped them somehow. And I'm not sure how he did that. So if we go back to diamonds, does the entity get destroyed, or does it just like go into a limbo state somewhere in the level? So this is, the diamond is 4,200. Entity's gone. The leprechaun destroys the entity when he picks it up. Like, that diamond doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, he also drops the clover. Doesn't he always drop the clover when he dies? Let's see. Okay, let's get just one leprechaun in the pit. Alright, so I'm gonna kill him once. Alright, so he dropped that clover. Let's get a necromancer. And let's revive him and see if he drops another clover. No, or did I... Wait, did I pick up the first clover? Let's just do this right. I wasn't paying attention to whether I picked up the first one. Hello, Ghost of Clover. We're just doing some ordinary dumb shit. Nothing to see here. No, he doesn't drop it. He only drops one. How does he know to... How does he know to drop it? Hold on. I think we're missing info on the leprechaun. We must be missing fields. How does he know not to drop the clover a second time when killed? Because like, again, these are the fields that are exposed in Overlunky. Okay, let's see. This is still money related. We can still attach this to the money segment. How does this work? Yeah, there is a single unknown. It could be a Boolean. What? Why is that? I didn't click on that. GitHub, what are you doing? I did not click on anything. Why did you open that page? So there is an unknown in the struct. I can open up a debugger. I'm not going to show the debugger on stream. I don't have a good way to capture that. But I can look real quick to see whether or not there's anything else in memory that's storing like additional info for these guys. Because we don't have the full picture here on this enemy. Yet another like Clover themed mystery. I wonder if I could capture the debugger. Let's see. I need to be a little careful about this. I don't think I could dox myself with this. Let me look real quick. Let me make sure I can't dox myself with the debugger before I capture this on stream. This might be interesting for people to watch. I've never streamed this thing before. Anything in the logs? I'm just looking to see if like any like important files or anything are listed anywhere, and it doesn't look like it. You might see the name of like my user directory, but it doesn't matter that much. Okay, I think we're clean. It's not the end of the world if people figure out what my first name is. I mean, a couple people in chat already know what it is anyways. I appreciate the privacy, but if it gets leaked, I'm not gonna cry about it. That said, please do not, like, dox me in the chat or anything if you do know what it is. Just let these things be. Let a funny accident happen. So I'm gonna show the debugger on OBS. Let me try to capture this. We need probably a window capture. Do not make it visible. Okay, what is this going to pick? It actually selected the right thing. Window priority. Match title, I guess yeah, same window of executable should work. Capture method automatic, we want cursor. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see how this shows up. Let me put it under the chat so you can still see that. Why can't I scroll this down? OBS, come on, there you go. Put this right above the game. Yell at me if if I cover up the game while I'm doing something here. Yeah, I don't have like a good layout for this really. Streamlabs, category, there we go, that's where we'll put it. Okay, and the bottom's cut off because that's where my taskbar is. That's completely fine. Okay, so when I talk about the debugger, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know how to use Ghidra, but this is the other tool that a lot of the tool devs have used to like figure out what's going on in memory when you're playing this dumb video game. So we now have a capture of this thing. I kind of know how to use this thing, but I would consider myself an amateur. Experimentum Scientificus. At this time of the week, night, I ruined your bit. Yes. Yes, that's what that's my follow-up. You continue the joke if you want. I fucking ruined it. No, of course. Alright, so let's see. We attached... let's see here. Alright, so we're looking for Leprechaun. Not two of them. Alright, so we've got an unknown. Actually, let me get a fresh one. A fresh garden variety Leprechaun. Alright, so I know the game's blocking it. My science a good Spelunky, thank you. Alright, we got our Leprechaun. Let's, Alright, now I can go back to what you're actually looking at. Refresh. So there's nothing here, but there have been situations where the data for an entity extended past this limit. Amount of gold he picked up will be dropped on death. So that's not how this works. You have not missed Apple %. We've been doing money science so far. This is money science, but this is actually something I haven't really done before. And this has gotten derailed into figuring out how leprechauns store their money and whether there's any exploits we can make out of this, because this value here is not the same as the leprechaun's inventory. Like, the leprechaun remembers what it picked up, but we have no idea how it does that. Like, where that information is stored in memory. So if I look at, let's see here. If I look at the end of the struct, at this memory offset, what do we have? Just a bunch of nothings. Alright, so I'm going to go in the game, in the background where you can't see it, and I'm going to give him 1 diamond, and we're going to see if any of those, like, bits at the beginning change. Alright, he just picked that up. Let me go look at this myself now. Oh, something happened. Yes, something spawned into memory in that spot. Like, just some data showed up here at the end of the leprechaun struct. Now, it's possible that that was just the diamond that I spawned in. Like, this could be the diamond entity itself. There's a slightly more controlled way that I could do this test. So in the background where you can't see it, I just deleted the leprechaun. I'm going to spawn a new one, and then I'm going to spawn a few trash entities to fill up memory, to make sure that there's something in memory after the leprechaun. So I just spawned like a few blocks to fill in memory. Now I'm going to give him a diamond. Okay, so back to the thing. Refresh, new leprechaun. Go to the last bit in memory. So this is where we might see something spawn in. Actually, let me align these correctly. Okay, this is what I want to look at. Okay, so what we're looking at here... What are we looking at there? Target and sight time. Okay, that's just like the AI timer. So then we're looking at 2 bytes for the gold and then 2 more bytes of other crap we don't care about. This is how I would figure out the stale ref. Yeah, I would use this tool and also maybe Ghidra to look into the executable code, but I do not know how to use Ghidra. It is on my to-do list, but I want to finish the task tool before I go down that rabbit hole. Alright, so anyways, there's a timer here. So I actually want to click on this one. There we go. Alright, so what we're looking at here is those last values, and then this is the end of the struct. So will something happen in memory if I spawn a diamond? That's the question. So in the game, I'm going to spawn a diamond, but not give it to the leprechaun. I spawned Coco Von Diamonds. I fucking hate the fact that that is the first thing that shows up. Get in the wall. I want a diamond. There we go. That is correct. All right, so did anything happen in memory when I did that? No, doesn't look like it. Okay, so let's spawn a diamond now and see if anything changes. Hired hands are big, so they might not have fit in that slot in memory. I just spawned a diamond. Nothing happened. We still have zeros. My theory is that this might be a pointer to an array that hasn't been initialized yet, because he hasn't picked anything up. So if I give him the diamond now, let's go see what happened. And we got stuff. Oh yeah, this right here. That's a pointer. Yep, this is an address to a different spot in memory. Let's see. Okay, what can we do here? I think this might be neat for people because I've never shown this. I wonder if we could figure out what this is, like right now on the spot. It's like this, so this is an address in memory. You just right click. There is a way to follow this pointer. That's what I'm gonna do. The thing is, it spawned in another pointer here, and then this is also a pointer. This one is, and this one is as well. Is this one? I think this is also an address, and then maybe this is where it stops. So let's see here. So now that we know what we're working with here, this program cannot be run in DOS mode. I'm glad that's like baked into literally every executable file you ever run on Windows. All right, so let's go into address mode and click on that again. So let's see, I just want to get the byte offset correct. So I think if I click on this one, there they are. Okay, so here's our memory addresses. It's these like 5 here, and then I think this, what is it? This might be like a function pointer or something. What is that? Okay, well, let's start with this. I don't know if this little modify value window gets captured or not. I'm looking at the stream real quick to see if that got captured. No, let's see, I dragged it onto the window. I don't think you can see that. Don't worry, I'm just copying the value out of a modification pop-up. All right, so what is that in memory? What are we looking at here? This is... Why would they do it like this? These are right next to each other in memory. It could be like an array list. The thing is, if this is like an array list or something, I don't have a good way to follow these. I do not know the structure of I guess a vector might be the data structure they used in C++, but I don't know the structure, so I wouldn't know where to look for specific fields to decipher this. But if we go back over here and go to this address, that just gave us, it's a chain of pointers. Yeah, we might not be able to follow this very easily. I'm not sure if I could follow this, chat, but I think there is missing data from the Leprechaun. I believe we have a pointer. We just don't know like what it goes to, and it's very hard to look at this. I think I'm gonna back out on this one because this might be a rabbit hole that just is just me staring at numbers in memory and accomplishing nothing. Because what I would be doing to approach this is I'd be like writing notes down and trying to like track down exactly how many like levels of redirection there are for these pointers. But I think what's going on is there is an array, possibly a couple arrays in memory, storing like which money items the Leprechaun picked up and like how much they were worth. And there's probably a counter in there as well for like how many were picked up. The problem is we don't have a good way to dig into that information right now because this is not like the correct setup for me to do that. I'm going to make a to-do note for this. This might be something I look into on my own to update this in Overflow. But let me just add that in real quick here. Leprechaun has pointers and it's struct. Okay, that's all I need to look into this. Okay, so I think we're done with Leprechauns. Any other thoughts for how these guys work? The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give him diamonds and see if the number overflows. So look at the number. Yep, the bad streamer. Hold on, don't yell at me. Don't yell at me. Bad streamer alert. All right, we good? All right, so I'm going to give him diamonds and I'm going to see if the gold value overflows, like I think it might. All right, the next one should be like 3,500 or something. Okay, 4,000, close enough. Yeah, the gold value overflows. I guess they just didn't expect the Leprechaun to be able to collect that much money. So what I'm wondering then is, will he teleport away if he humps you and the amount of money he has is overflowed? No freaking way. I'm not surprised. I thought it was going to overflow. Who's using a 60? Coyce, have you looked at the memory structures in this game? They used inadequate like data structures for so many things. This game, without knowing for sure like what these kind of games were made like, this feels like a game that was programmed 15 years ago. It feels like the same code as Spelunky HD probably used. Even 20 years ago, honestly, like even in 2000, like our computers were getting good enough that you didn't have to do this stuff. But like this is a game that I think was programmed by like a boomer, is the way I would put it. I think this game was programmed by a boomer. There are a lot of things in this game that are just super hard-coded and baked in. Arrays that are fixed to a specific length because they didn't conceive of the fact that somebody would like pick up more than that. Program it to run in the switch. And I think the problem is the lead programmer, whoever it is. I don't know who it is, so I'm not going to like list off names. But whoever the lead programmer was for this game, I think is super like archaic is the vibe I get from it because of the way memory is structured in this game. There are very few array lists. There are very few dynamic data structures. Almost everything is baked in to be a specific size. And while that results in software that performs better, it also results in software that behaves really poorly with extreme edge cases. So like, for instance, everything in this game is programmed for 4 players. You can only have 8 hired hands. Waddler can only store 99 items. You can only collect 512 gold pieces before they stop showing up on the scoreboard. There are a ton of examples of this. What happens when the Leprechaun tries to drop that? The Leprechaun doesn't drop that amount of money. That's what we're looking into. The Leprechaun has an array somewhere in memory, which might actually be dynamic, which is very uncommon for this game. But it might have an array in memory of all the items that it has picked up, and that's what it's dropping. It's based on that. The amount of gold that it's using there, I think, just controls the teleport timer, is what I'm getting at here. So while I've been rambling, I've been trying to get his amount of money below 1,000 without having to type in the number to see if he'll teleport away if he has less than 1,000 gold. Even though we know that he has picked up way more than that. I'm about to just set the value, but I kind of want to do this like in the field. Okay, we're getting there. This might be the one. And I missed it. HD can remember 1,024 at the end of the level. Yeah, it's for this game, it was, I think, 512 per player. Okay, let's slow down here. The next one might do it. Not quite. Next one. There it is. Alright, so if I let this guy hump me, I wonder if he'll teleport away. I don't have God mode on, so he should be able to stun me. Oh, he picked up money from me because I had cash. Now let's just clear all that out and do this properly. I'm gonna overflow them. I can overflow the pieces of gold array to perform limited writes to memory. That's assuming it doesn't have a cap. The thing is, we gave, of course, I don't know which parts you were here for. We gave a Leprechaun 11,000 gold coins, and he dropped 11,000 gold coins when I killed him and crashed my game. That's like where this started off. Oh, in HD, you can actually do that. There's no overflow check. I guess the HD is an even more archaic game than this one, then. If there's literally no overflow check in HD, and it just writes the random shit in memory. HD is a bad game. Like, HD is so badly programmed. It's astonishing. Based on, like, what little I do know about that game, it is an abomination of, like, shitty programming. This game is way better as far as stability is concerned, but we're still trying to push the limits. Like, for instance, if I did find, like, a buffer overflow or some kind of array overflow glitch in this game, I would abuse the shit out of it to see if we could weaponize it and do something interesting. We just haven't found one yet. The only thing we know about that can make arbitrary reads to memory right now, I think, is the back item dupe and maybe the apple glitch, which we'll be seeing next. So anyways, let's see. So each of these, yeah, okay, I'll just spawn a ton of these. So this time I will have no money for him to take from me. You know what? I could make this much more efficient if I just. He's gonna die if I try to spawn the block on him. There we go. This will be much more efficient if I just prevent him from jumping around. If you're interested in the Vlad's Cape Caveman thing, there's a lot of potential for that bug. but I don't know enough about how the game's executable code works to like efficiently weaponize it. Okay, so my theory here is he won't teleport away, even though this guy is stacked right now. Let's see if he teleports away. Nope, he will not teleport away. Because he does not have enough money. Because this number is using 2 bytes, and it overflows. So if the Leprechaun steals a sufficient amount of money from you, he just won't TP out. Landscape caveman thing. You can, I think what Cloyce is talking about is you can do the back item dupe and like get a... There's a few things actually. I think you can do the back item dupe and give the caveman like the actual cape, and then you could force the caveman to jump, which sometimes crashes the game and sometimes allows the caveman to jump, I think. It's been a little while since I looked into it. And there's just a bunch of stuff with the back item dupes in general that cause things to happen that don't necessarily make sense. Oh boy, Bearsy. Alright, look. If you're who I think I am, just be nice, alright? And hello, and thank you for the follow. If you're not who I think I am, I apologize for making assumptions here. I hope at the very least you're enjoying the stream, whatever it is you're doing. Anyways, back to this. Now, in fairness, I'm not jumping to conclusions yet. We're gonna let this one play out. I lost my train of thought there. Let's see, so yeah, caveman jumping, intriguing. Yeah, anything that causes a crash in this game sometimes, but not always, is always intriguing. It's interesting to see it. So anyways, if I give this leprechaun a little more money and then let him hump me, he should TP out. Well, if he stops doing that. He resets the timer. Yeah, now he'll teleport, so I've got mode on now. Where did he go? There he is. Alright, so if we kill him, he should drop all those diamonds. Let me get him out from behind that so you can actually see it. Yep, so you can see here, the leprechaun knows what he picked up. Even though that gold counter is not even remotely accurate. So there's something unexposed in memory for leprechaun inventories, and we just don't know what it is. There's also a flag, actually let me add that to my notes, there's also a flag for whether or not the clover has been dropped. And I wonder if the clover is like also in his inventory somehow. I'm gonna add a note for that. Because when he's necroed, it doesn't drop a second clover, and we don't know where that flag is either. I feel protected. Alright. Let's see here. Alright, so anything else we could think of leprechaun themes to look into while we're doing this? Not too different. Player inventories are weird. Like, I think it is different from player inventories. When you have a power-up as a player, like if I get spring shoes, oh yeah. And look at my player inventory, it goes into your items, like this. Oh, Bearsy. But if you... where am I going? The leprechaun isn't storing it in here. Like, this is what the player inventory looks like. There's just... Basically, the way this is implemented, I think it's a two-way reference. The player has a reference to the items they're holding somewhere in memory, and then the items also have an overlay for the player. And back item dupe exploits this two-way reference by the player thinking that they have the back item, but the back item not thinking they're attached to the player. You've changed, please don't ban you. Okay, listen, I will not ban you unless you start causing problems. You know what those problems are. This is your warning. You're free to watch my streams at your leisure. Anyways, this is how the player stores inventories. We checked this with the leprechaun. Can multiple leprechauns pick up the same dollar? They don't store items like this. I guess for anyone who missed it, this is not how they store items. They do it differently. The item like despawns. I guess we could try leprechaun item dupe. So I mean, sure, why not? Let's do that. So the first test, let's Alright, so here's a diamond, and here's our funny leprechaun. So this is a repeat. I showed this already. This is the diamond, and that's the leprechaun. The leprechaun has no items right now. This is empty. You can see what's going on here. What's the science? We're just doing generic money science, trying to figure out how like money pickups work and things like that. Interesting. He can't pick it up until he's on the ground. There he goes. So you saw that disappeared. The diamond is gone. It despawned. Like, there's no more diamond. It's not in the leprechaun's inventory. We looked at it in memory briefly, and there's an array or a list or a vector or some data structure in memory that is holding on to the fact that he picked up a diamond. Probably just the entity type ID for diamond is what's in memory right now. As opposed to the player, where if the player collects it, it just goes into their money total and gets stored. Now, let me show that. So, like, if a player picks up money, for instance, it goes into here. It doesn't go onto their player entity. It goes into this object in memory right here. State, where's items? State, items, player inventory, player number, so 1. And it gets added to your collected money total and your collected money objects. So you can see we picked up a bunch of diamonds already. If I pick up one more, it adds it right there. So that's how it knows what I picked up. And then all the way up here, it added it to the money as well. So you can see this value go up when I pick it up. And then at the end of the level, it's going to add it to my collected money total. This number right here. It's going to take this, and it's going to transfer it to this number right here. That's how players pick up money. So the key here is that the leprechaun can drop its money. For the player, the money basically goes into a black hole, and the Hawking radiation is gold nuggets. If a monkey steals from you, everything becomes a gold nugget. They cannot steal diamonds or anything else. They only steal large and small nuggets. Leprechauns also only steal large nuggets. Alright, see ya, Bearsy. So the question is there anything different about how the leprechauns pick up money? And one thing that we could potentially try is leprechaun dupe. And that would consist of having 2 leprechauns land on the money on the same frame. So we're going to use the Amogus here to set this up for us. If we have 2 leprechauns in a box together like this, and they're at the same height, yeah, I call it Hawking radiation because the black hole deleted the info for the money originally. It's very clever. It's a smart 200 IQ joke. You have to watch a lot of Rick and Morty to understand this kind of humor. Alright, so we've got a diamond in this pit. Actually, let's get 2 fresh leprechauns. Neither of them have any money in their inventory. Yeah, 250 IQ. Alright, so I don't think this is going to work, but let's find out what happens with these 2 guys. Are they both going to pick up this diamond, and are either of them going to, like, think they picked up the money even though they didn't? Is the other thing that could happen. They could increment their money counter, but not actually pick up the money. So let's pick a leprechaun. And let me see if I can snipe the other one. Yeah, okay, I got them both. So let me move this out from under chat. Yeah, it's not the HD collision engine. That's why I don't think it'll work, but we should absolutely test this, because if this does work, this means if you get a leprechaun with a clone gun, you could dupe money. So let's see here. And then we have to think about whether you can like continuously dupe. You could dupe in City of Gold, you could dupe with the clone gun. You wouldn't be able to get necromancers. Clone gun with leprechaun doesn't work. You think you could about test it. You can't clone a leprechaun? I guess City of Gold would be our limit. Then let me real quickly test that. This guy's never going to teleport out, so let me get the clone gun. Doesn't clone its gold. Well, that's not what I was talking about. I'm talking about getting 2 leprechauns to do this dupe. I know they don't dupe their gold when you clone them. This is a new entity. I'm aware of that. But you'll see here, one of them's going to TP out and the other one's not. Because one of them has the money. Yeah, then the other one doesn't TP out. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. You can. I thought you were saying you couldn't clone them at all. Like it was one of the items the clone gun doesn't interact with. Because that would have been huge, but I was like almost certain that didn't work. I didn't even think to look into that because I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that that doesn't work. I mean, I suppose we could, if we're feeling really diligent, you know, let's go ahead and verify Gugabo's test results here. I'm pretty sure though this doesn't work, so let's spawn a diamond. We'll be diligent about this. All right, this guy has a diamond. So frame advance, just so he doesn't start humping me. I'm going to clone him. Alright, so the one on the left here is the guy that originally had the diamond, I think. Or maybe I already lost track, but let's just see if either of them have any extra money on them. Alright, so this guy has the 5,000 gold. This guy does not. I'm looking at this number right here. And then if we kill the guy that doesn't have any money, he shouldn't drop anything. Just drops a clover. That guy drops the diamond. So yeah, there we go. Confirmed. Gugabo's right. Leprechauns do not dupe their money counter. That is how basically any duplicated entity in this game works. It doesn't dupe variables like these. It just creates a new instance of that entity. There are only a couple exceptions to that, like hired hands having their health copied over, I think, is one of them. I think in general, enemy health gets copied, but almost nothing else does. So it's not a terribly useful thing to do. But it's good to look into these things and consider them as an option. Alright, so we have our two leprechauns here. Let me see if I can get both of these. Alright, so we're interested in the gold counter. I don't think this is going to work, but let's see if leprechaun dupe is a thing. They're both going to land on the same frame. There's no way that their hitbox isn't going to be touching this piece of gold. I'm going to also snap them to the same tile. They are literally overlapping. There's no reason why they would not pick this up on the same exact frame. So let's see what happens. One of them grabbed it, and it looks like the other one did not. The leprechaun with the lower entity ID picked up the diamond. But just in case we manage to dupe it anyways, we're going to kill them both and see if either of them drops anything. That was supposed to be a bullet. Alright, so the leprechaun that we have here... I'm not sure which one we have. Let's just see. Okay, that's the guy that had the diamond, and this guy probably won't drop one. Okay, so that dupe is not a thing. You cannot, like, leprechaun money dupe. Only one is able to pick it up. A disappointing development, but it's what I expected, honestly. They did fix, like, the money duping glitches that were in Spelunky HD, so at least I'll give them some credit for that. Yeah, Spelunky collision and deletion code is a dumpster fire for HD, but in this game it seems like just the first entity to touch something engages the whole interaction, and you don't have to worry about anything else touching it on the same frame if it gets like collected or anything. Okay, so any other thoughts, any other money related questions that we have here? We only found one money dupe and it wasn't very good. So are there any other thoughts or suggestions for what I could look into for this? Let's just take a second to hydrate here. I'm not seeing anything. I think we move on then from the money segment of the stream. So I hope the money part was interesting. This is something I haven't really bothered looking into because I rarely ever do score related stuff. If we think of new ideas for money duping, can always come back to this in the future. Yeah, shopkeepers from Mothership don't drop gold. Yeah, they don't cause you... They're a different entity. You can see what I did right there. Shopkeeper clone is a different entity. So it's basically, I assume, a copy paste of the regular shopkeeper, except it doesn't have like NPC mechanics built into it. So it's just a shopkeeper with that's just always angry with a gun.